Fellow auto detailers, welcome to the show that features interviews with today's most successful auto detailers. This is the Auto Detailing Podcast. Here's your host, Jimbo Balaam.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast. And again, I just want to preface this episode. This is a way different episode than I've ever done before, and it's a little self-serving, but I think it will deliver a lot of information. I had a blast doing it, so heck, that's why I did it. So, had a great conversation with a fellow detailer, Joe Connelly, via phone one day, and he said, hey, if you're up for any ideas for the podcast, I have a bunch of questions that have just I've kind of thought of as I've been listening to your show for the past 3 years or so. And I said, yeah, shoot them over, let me know what they are, because really I love getting your guys' messages. So whether it's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, which I'm never on, so sometimes it takes me a while to get there, YouTube, whatever. I love email. I love getting your guys' comments. I don't care how many I get per day. I try to respond to every single person and help every single person. So please keep messaging me. I love interacting with you guys. So anyway, that's what Joe did. And he emailed me over a list of questions, and then he said, hey, if you ever want, I can kind of interview you, and we could do a podcast episode about it. And I thought, oh, that's different and kind of, unique, and so let's do it. So that's exactly what this episode is a bunch of questions that Joe kind of had that aren't specific to Joe at all, but he just thought of them. So it's kind of a little bit of a deeper insight into me and kind of how I think in my world and what I like, TV shows, cats or dogs, biggest detailing mistakes I've made, biggest successes I've had, kind of where I see the detailing industry going, all that stuff. So, but before we get to that, I want to talk about this towel that I'm holding. This is the Dreadnought by autofiber.com. It's a super twist microfiber drying towel. It's a huge towel. It's a 20 by 30 and 1100 GSM. It's a heavyweight microfiber drying towel with long twist piles on both ends and interior sewn edges. The long twist fibers facilitate maximum absorption. So this is a drying towel. And it's huge. You could fold it twice to make 8 clean wiping surfaces, but really you could honestly probably do 2 to 3 cars drying them with this one towel if you wanted. But not only that, this towel, if you happen to listen to the Auto Detailing Podcast and don't detail cars, this towel is the most ideal towel to take with you to a swimming pool. Tell you why. The absorption rate is super high, and it's a huge towel in the detailing world, but compared to a cotton towel, it's not very big. Well, actually, it folds down really small in this nice packaging that it is. But if you're going to the jacuzzi, going to the pool, you need to have this towel. But if you're a detailer, you also need to have this towel because it picks up so much freaking water. It comes in a really nice gray color. You could pick it up now at autofiber.com or jimbodaily.com. Whichever one, they're both on there. I have a few in stock here that I got from Ian. Comes in a real nice package. That's the Dreadnought Super Twist Microfiber Drying Towel. That is the towel of the week, thanks to autofiber.com. Here we go with this week's episode. Hope you guys enjoy it. Again, message me. Let me know what you thought. There, I'm recording.
Okay, you got 2 versions to choose from for any time. I know you went to Fiverr for your intro.
Yep.
But if you're looking to redo it, here's coming at you. So that's choice 1. Or you could go old school. This is probably before your time, but wait for it. Do you get the reference?
I do.
Rolls Royce car wash. You with me?
I'm with you. A brother from another mother. I had no idea. Oh man, I think I like both. I wonder if I'd run into any copyright infringement or something like that.
I'm guessing you would get a cease and desist letter pretty quickly.
pretty quickly. Now, people, I'm going to roll this as the start of the episode, so people just picking up are like, what the heck is going on? But this is episode 3. This is going to be episode 334. Let me double check that real quick. I believe so. This is 335, excuse me. So I'll edit that out. This is episode 335. And I have Joe Connelly with me, and we're going to be doing a bit of a different type of episode that I'm really excited for. But Joe, I want to kind of put the spotlight over to you. Tell us about yourself and what you got going on, who you are, where you're at in the country, all that good stuff.
Well, I live in Pennsylvania. I'm a part-time mobile detailer, and I'm grateful for you and detailers like you who've put out a ton of content on YouTube. It's effectively shortened the learning curve for me and people like me. So I'm very grateful. And I thought of some questions, being that it's my third year in business. I think for you, this is what, year 11 or 12 or something?
Yeah, 10. 10 as my own business.
Okay. So, I've got some questions. Some of them put some zingers in here. So buckle up. Some of them straightforward, but all of them enlightening. As I listen to different podcasts, not only yours, but others, there's some things that I think about, some from a business standpoint, some from a detailing standpoint,
sure.
All of which I wanted to fire at you, some of them rapid format, if that's okay.
Yeah. And this is, when you kind of pitched this idea to me, the timing was perfect because, I think as we had a conversation on the phone, Yeah, we did. And I have all these conversations on the phone with people, and they ask all different kinds of questions. And it's great, and it's awesome, and I love it. And I just wish I could record every single conversation I had. So, in fact, I was having a conversation with Con, who's actually been on the podcast. And he was asking about the Jimbo Daily side and all that, and I was kind of telling him the whole story, and he's like, dude, you got to get someone on to ask you more questions in general about you. He's like, you're always asking questions of other people, but we only get little tidbits about you, and someone needs to do that. And no lie, Joe, like the next week we talked, and then you emailed like, I got some questions for you. So I think this is a really timely podcast, and I'm excited. So yeah, rapid fire, whatever you got, I'll do my best to answer. And if I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know.
All right, we'll get you warmed up with a lightning round. Favorite TV show or movie?
So when you first emailed me, I was obsessed with the show called Life Below Zero on Netflix. Well, I think it's on regular TV too, but I was watching it on Netflix. And just recently, over the past couple nights, it switched over to a Netflix original show called Dope, which they follow drug dealers and cops. So they kind of are following the rat race between the two. It's kind of interesting to me.
Interesting. What are you reading right now?
I just finished, this is going to be random, but Aubrey Marcus, there's a nutritional supplement company called On It. And the guy who started it, his name is Aubrey Marcus. And his book was called, I think it's Own the Day. I think it's Own the Day. Let me pull up my Audible. And I just finished that book. And right before that, it was, I actually reread Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. Because I finally got Crushing It on Audible. So I'd never read Crush It. So the last 3 books, I guess. Crushing It, Crush It, and then Own the Day.
Apple or Android?
Apple, all the way.
Beach or wilderness?
Beach.
Seal Beach or some other beach?
Probably Seal Beach. That's a good question, though.
Water, coffee, or energy drink?
I drink a ton of coffee and even more water. No energy drinks.
Bagel or donut?
Both. All
well,
of them.
You do have 2 hands, so you gotta.
Exactly.
All right, there's a whole lot riding on this next one. Dogs or cats?
Dogs, 100%.
Well done, my friend.
Yeah, I'm a total dog person.
Meat, fish, or chicken?
All of it.
As a fellow basketball fan, you like this one: LeBron, Kobe, or MJ?
Oh, Kobe's my guy. I mean, the three-peat of the early 2000s were kind of my heyday, the Shaq and Kobe days. I'm been a diehard Laker fan my whole life, so I don't hate LeBron. I remember LeBron when I was in high school and LeBron was in high school, I think he was a senior, I was a freshman. He went to St. Vincent, St. Mary, I think, because Kobe went to Lower Merion, I believe. Anyway, so St. Vincent, St. Mary, LeBron's high school was playing Mater Dei, which is a local high school to me out here, and they were playing at Pauley Pavilion, which is where UCLA plays. And so LeBron, I didn't go to the game, but it was televised out here, and I saw LeBron play in high school, which was pretty cool. So I mean, that guy's a beast. And Jordan, he's all right, I guess. But Kobe, Kobe all day.
This next one might hurt a little bit. Smart car or Sprinter van?
Oh, Sprinter van. That was great. You know what, though? Funny enough, and I feel like there's probably going to be a lot of tangents because I like to talk, but I took my truck in. I have a truck now, sold the Sprinter a little while ago, have a truck, and I took it in because I got a nail in the tire, and they gave me a Prius, and, and I was like, all right, like a Prius, but I found an appreciation for a very small, agile car. So I'm sure if I drove a smart car, I'd like it. It just wouldn't fit much of I got a lot of crap. So.
Steamer, extractor, rotary, or DA? If you could only pick one, which one would you start with?
Steamer, probably a steamer. Yeah, that's a tough question. But if I could only start with one, it would be definitely I think I utilize. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I'll keep it short. Steamer.
So if steamer comes in first, who comes in last? Extractor, rotary, or DA?
Probably an extractor. I mean, once you have a steamer, if you have a vacuum, I mean, you can get. I haven't fired up my extractor, to be honest, in years, literally, just because the steam handles it. And if the steam doesn't handle it, a carpet brush handles it. And if that doesn't handle it, it's like it's probably not coming out,
Yep. All right, enough of the softballs. Here comes the heat. Best or worst business advice given or received?
To me, or that I've heard given out?
Either one, whatever strikes you.
The worst, wow. I think the worst advice or the worst thing that I hear in business is that we've always done it this way. Like when someone says that always bothers me, always did bother me, of like and it could be in any situation across multiple businesses, but people get, once they've hit a certain number of years in their craft or art or whatever it is, they get stuck, right? So they constantly say, well, we've always done it this way. It's just not working right now, but we've always done it this way. And honestly, I got a lot of business off people that said that because they got old and stale and didn't utilize new techniques and use new products and stuff like that. I think the best advice is to the opposite of that, which is to keep innovating, keep evolving, I guess, if you want to use that word, and keep learning. Never stop learning.
Gotcha. What's the biggest misconception about detailing that you continue to run into?
From detailers or customers?
Customers.
From customers, that their car can be completely transformed to back to brand new. Now I'm talking mainly inside and outside, but oh, what do you mean? I took out that parking pole and it dented my car and scratched it down to the metal and you can't fix it? Or, I that would be an exterior example, but an interior example would be, and I don't know if you see this very much, but like a customer who wears dress shoes a lot, and they drive their car a lot and they don't have like rubber mat down or anything, the heel of a dress shoe can literally just eventually wear a hole into the floor mat. And they're like, what do you mean you can't fix that? And it's like, you have a hole in your floor mat. Like, what do you mean?
Biggest mistake or regret in your career, or if the statute of limitations has expired, the dumbest thing you did while detailing?
I've done a lot of dumb stuff detailing. I've burned paint. I've crashed. Probably the dumbest thing I've done was I crashed the customer's car because I didn't yet know how to. This is embarrassing. I didn't know how to drive stick shift well enough yet. And I just got myself in a horrendous pickle on this hill in an Audi RS4 that was brand new, and I just couldn't find reverse in the gearbox and crashed it right into a slow roll right into a brick wall.
Ouch.
Yeah, that was fun. What was in the another mistake that I did on a business level is I didn't keep good enough records or good enough records of my clients' information. So I did it really loosely, just text and call, and didn't keep track of numbers and names and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Biggest achievement in your professional career, and you cannot mention hand modeling on the Jimbo Daily website.
That's up there, Biggest achievement, interesting. I've never thought about that, really. Biggest achievement. I think I'm getting into that now because of I think one thing that's really cool is the access that the podcast has given me into deeper circles of the auto detailing industry. And I think that's a pretty good achievement, considering I'm just a one-man mobile detailer that nobody knew about in 2014. And I think I have some good connections into the space now. I think that's a pretty good achievement.
So I got to talk about tangents. On the Jimbo Daily website, the roulette wheel of savings, was that your idea or Pete's?
So that was actually, how's this for a curveball? That was Kevin Davis of Detailer's Helper. He goes, dude, you got to implement this wheel thing. It's super cool. It drives conversions and gives people discounts and stuff like that. And I was kind of like, all right, it's kind of cool, but it's kind of corny, kind of not, But that was actually Kevin Davis, and I implemented it, and it's worked really, really well. So props to Kevin Davis. Pete actually doesn't have anything to do with the Jimbo Daily side. He's only we're only teamed up for the podcast sometimes, and then mainly the inner circle.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
How many years into your detailing career until you stop feeling like a hack?
Wow. I I still feel like a hack, but I feel like sometimes instead of using the word hack, I use I just lost the word, but like creative. Not creative, but like I'm a problem solver, so I just get to a end result faster. So it was funny though. I felt like an extreme hack in the beginning that just came from a lack of confidence, right? Of just not knowing what I didn't know and not having enough cars under my belt to be confident in the service that I was providing. And that lasted a long time. I remember being really, really, really self-conscious about, like, are you sure people will pay for this? Like, did I do a good enough job? Like, I went through a severe time of that. And then that lasted probably a good couple years until I started getting return clients calling.
Yeah.
And then referrals from them. And then that started, helping out my ego, I guess. And then I went through a good season where I definitely wasn't a hack. I was doing everything by the book. But because I started mainly doing like lot washes or like corporate accounts, that was my bread and butter for a long time. Go knock out 10, 12, 15 cars. My record was 22 cars in one day by myself. And so when you're doing, for a one-man band, I was always a high-volume guy. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth. So, that space is full of hacks, so that's where I kind of cut my teeth on the acid and stuff like that, the quick hacks, I guess.
how the heck do you line up 22 vehicles? I mean, I know you got a mobile rig and they were lot wash type things,
Yep.
but I'm thinking it wasn't just wet it down, throw some soap on, move on. I mean, I'm pretty confident that you did more than that. So
Yeah, so it
start
was
with before, you
a
know?
so I used to travel around with a 100-gallon water tank, and that was enough to do about 13 cars. 13. If I was careful, about not 17. Excuse me. If I was careful, about 14 or 15. So I had a account at Carl's Jr. corporate offices out here in Anaheim, California, and I rolled up one day and they just didn't stop coming. So it was employees of that worked at the corporate building, and they just did not stop coming. And then I ran out of water, and I had DI water tanks at my house, but my house was 40 minutes away. So I went to a detail supply shop, refilled my water tank, and went back. And it was it's a rinse, soap, rinse, clean the rims, dress the tires, clean the windows inside and out, vacuum everything, wipe it down, and send them. So spot-free water really, really helps in that situation, because what I found was that if you work everything in an assembly line, kind of going back to Henry Ford, right? I started thinking about that as I was, because even 7 to 10 cars was like a regular day, so I was always constantly battling this. And the Carl's Jr. place, I only went once a week. So I had probably in total, I had about 10 office buildings that I would hit either on a monthly or a weekly or a biweekly, kind of rotation mixed in with retail clients, that I would go to their house. And some of those people have 3 cars, 5 cars, 7 cars, and so, and I had a small vintage car dealership that always had 15 to 18 cars once a week that I would work at. So this efficiency thing for me was always an issue. And so I found the quickest way to jump through all these cars was to line them up and assembly line everything. So depending on how hot it was that day, the pre-rinse phase would go from 2 to 3 cars, and then the soap phase would be those cars that I rinsed. And then on the line, all the rims got done at once, all the tires got dressed at once, all the glass got cleaned at once, all the cars got vacuumed at once, they all got wiped down at once, so the issue would be when customers wanted their car done first. And what I found out is, if I wash one car at a time, that one car takes me 45 minutes to an hour just to wash it. But somehow I can do about 3 to 4 cars in that same hour if I do it in an assembly line. So it's because, and then spot-free water helps because, the cars are pretty much air drying themselves. And you just have to go back and kind of touch it up, But again, that's where acid comes in for the rims, because acid is pretty much a no-touch thing that gets the rims pretty dang clean for just spraying it on and pressure washing off, But
Yeah.
when you dress, 40 tires at once, you're over it. You don't want to dress another tire.
Well, it's official. Your new theme song has been voted on and is very clearly going to be.
Yeah. And I did. And you know what? That's a grind. And I don't miss those days, it's June, July, August. And then our really warm months sometimes are September, even into October, and I remember going out to that Carl's Jr. account, and it's, 8:30, 9 in the morning, and it's already hit 93, 95, 100. And I know to a lot of people I probably sound like a little sissy, but on black pavement, of course we didn't have humidity, but still, if there's no wind, that's a hot day, and it's just like, all right, here we go. 9 a.m. I got 12 cars, and, there's only one way to get through it,
So, how many years until you felt like you were consistently hitting your goals? Because you said you nailed it a couple years in and hit a higher time. You started off in possibly the worst time economically in our country in
Right.
the last decade. but how many years until you felt like you were dropping the hammer and hitting those targets?
It was between the 3 to 4 year mark. Is really when I felt like I could ease up a little bit on pounding the pavement so much and constantly having to chase down new clients and constantly having to talk to everyone about what I did and let everyone know about my business and just constantly following up with customers, because there's two things I really hate, and it's like cold calling or cold going into like office buildings. The low-hanging fruit is the office buildings, and so that's why I started there, because it was easy to get, for me at least. And so walking into an office building and walking in knowing that you're going to be talking with a gatekeeper who doesn't want you there and doesn't care about you and is most likely going to say no to having you come and wash cars there is one of the worst feelings in the world for me. And I did it over and over and over and over. And when I stopped doing that, it was about 3 to 4 years in, when I finally felt like I had a big enough pool of past clients and current clients that my phone would just ring, And then I started running the Google ads, and that was like next level. And that's when I started running the Google ads is when I started cutting off my office building work, because instead of competing on a $20, $25, $30 car wash, I was getting the calls for the $200 details, the $300 details, the paint corrections, the coating, stuff like that. Gotcha.
How many years until you felt like you were highly adept at time management?
I'm kind of, I'm, there definitely gets to be a point where you can start quoting jobs and nailing down the time. I would say within the past couple years, I've gotten really super good at knowing exactly how much time a car is going to take me. And that was a skill set in and of itself. But then the communication to the client about that was also a good lesson that I learned too, because if you don't, at least for me, if I didn't tell the client and I didn't preface the whole detail with how long it was going to take me, I always finished too early in their eyes. So a wash and a wax, they're used to themselves doing it. So it may take them all of Saturday to wash and wax their own car, right? Yeah. And then they're going to be sore and blah, 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 blah. So then they call me and I knock it out in an hour and a half. And they're like, how is that even possible? Did you even wax it? Like, I don't think you waxed it. And that started leading to issues. So from there, I worked backwards and went, okay, I need to be able to look at a car, assess it. Part of the evaluation is how much time it's going to take me. That'll help me with my pricing, but that's on the back end. But also then I could communicate that to the client of, hey, this wash and wax is going to take me an hour and a half. I will be done here by noon, and then I got to go because I have a 12:30 appointment. And then that kind of sets, then the customer doesn't leave at, 11:45 to tell you they'll be back in a couple hours. And then you're stranded without getting paid, and that whole nightmare, So that's probably come in the last few years to where I can, and I'm pretty good. I'm pretty dang good at nailing down how much time it's going to take me, down to within 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah. So how do you relax away from detailing?
Well, there's not a whole lot of relaxing going on these days in my world. I got 3 kids, all under 5. So, or I guess 5 and under, 5.5. But it's mainly family time. Family time. We live really close to the beach. I'm not the biggest fan of the beach, to be honest, which is weird considering I have to live by the beach. But, I've really taken appreciation for being super close. I mean, we're like, a quarter mile to the sand. So, after dinner, most nights, as we have the sun stays out later now, going down to the sand after dinner, letting the kids play, going to the beach. There's a little playground right by the beach, and kind of just unwinding that way is good. And, Netflix, Life Below Zero, had me for a couple months there.
Now you're on the dope.
Now I'm on the dope, yep.
The TV show, just want to clarify.
Yeah, not the drug.
What's the most practical thing that you do that helps deliver incredible results to customers?
The most practical thing I do is deliver on what their needs are, not my own needs. So, um, asking a lot of questions and making sure that I'm hitting all their pain points. Not, and I just did an episode on this on Friday, a quick tip. I don't know if you caught it yet, but asking the customer a lot of questions and then delivering on those, obviously offering my opinion as the quote unquote professional of what I would do if it was my own car, but then ultimately leaving that decision up to the customer after they have all the information and then making sure I nail down those key points.
Gotcha. How often do you raise prices or adjust your service offerings?
Every service. Except for my regular. So if I have regulars, I still have a few regular home I guess you could call them retail customers that I go to their house that have been with me for 10 years. Like I service one guy pretty much every Friday that's been with me for 10 years, and his price has never gone up. Never. I've done extra services for him. So I wax the cars occasionally. I've done 3 coatings for him on his cars, but his regular weekly rate has never been raised in 10 years. And I don't think that's necessarily right. I just am uncomfortable with raising prices for regulars because I value their loyalty to staying with me for that long. Because I mean, the truth of the matter is there's no way I've been perfect for 10 years. We've had issues where I've missed stuff, or, I'm sure there's been seasons where I haven't been, as good at washing or cleaning his cars as I had been in the past. But, ultimately I don't raise his prices ever because I'm just not comfortable with it. But on a, case by case situation per detail, for a new client, the price is always fluctuating a little bit because it's always a supply and demand issue. So if I'm super busy that week, their price is going to be a little bit higher to squeeze them in. Or even, within the next 2 weeks, if I'm looking at my schedule and I'm like, I can't even fit this guy in for the next 3 weeks, their price is going to be higher. And if it's winter and the kids need to eat, I'm willing to work a little bit harder for a little less money. You know what I mean? Right. So I always keep that going in the back of my mind as an ego check of like, remember, you did $15 car washes, you did $20 car washes. Like you can go back to that in a snap, like don't think you're so good, because you could be right back there grinding it out, doing 15, 20 cars a day,
Or 22 like that one day, right?
Mm-hmm. Or 22 at $20 a car. And it's like, man, it's 400 and something bucks, but that's a lot of work. I've worked a lot less hard for more money than that since then,
What metrics do you track year to year, and how often do you review them?
Metrics, I don't really track, it's more of a mental gauge for me. And I kind of track a lifestyle. It's detailing for me has always been a lifestyle thing. I like cars. I enjoy cleaning cars. It's very therapeutic. I've realized I'm just kind of a clean freak. But for me, it's always been about what kind of lifestyle does it offer. So when I first started, the lifestyle that it offered was I could stop going to school. I could work whenever I wanted. I could make as much money as I wanted or as little amount of money as I wanted. And I didn't really have all my customers became my boss, but beyond that, I didn't have a boss over me, right? So that afforded me a great lifestyle because now I was kind of free, right? And then as I got married and started having kids, it was like, okay, well, I want to live in Seal Beach, and Seal Beach isn't cheap by any stretch of the imagination. And so I still want to have that lifestyle. So year to year and kid to kid, it's like, as we moved from basically a 1-bedroom apartment to a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom to a house to that, to this car, to that car. So I kind of take mental notes all the time, with how we're doing. But if I'm being honest, it's pretty much always a financial standpoint. but a lifestyle and financial for me, kind of, those are the two metrics.
Gotcha. What's your favorite type of vehicle to detail?
The clean one. I don't really have I think there's pros and cons to both high-end and low-end cars. I really like the, Honda, Toyota, door panels, dash, center consoles, because they always seem to clean really easily for me. Whereas the higher-end cars are a little bit more fragile and finicky. I guess if there's a type of cars that I really don't enjoy doing, it's classics. I really am not into classic cars like at all. I mean, I can appreciate them, but as far as cleaning them, it's like, no, thank you.
Is that because of single stage paint or because the customers are too finicky or what?
I don't mind the single stage paint. And sometimes it is the customers that kind of drive me nuts. But more than that, it's the material on the car. So it's, the rubber seals are usually never good or they don't fit right. And the chrome or the metal in the door, the door isn't right, or the panels don't line up, or you're not sure if you should slam the door or gently close the door. The windshield wiper blades are usually, it's just like I feel like they're so sensitive. And then you get into like, there's a 3 on the tree. It's like, frig, I can't even drive a normal stick shift hardly. How am I supposed to figure out a 3 on the tree? You know what I mean? And so there's just some old cars have chokes, and you got to pull the choke and then do this and then hit that button and move this over here and wiggle your butt 3 times and then start it up, and it's just like, I just want a car that I jump into, the keys in my pocket, I put my foot on the brake and I push the button and it starts.
Yeah. When you roll up and the car is a complete dumpster fire, how do you tell that to a customer without losing the business?
I try to always get pictures or look at the car beforehand. I try to never, ever go into a car blind. And if they're not willing to send pictures, I always preface my quote with, this could go up and it could go down depending on what I'm going to see, So if I quoted a car and I roll up and the car's a total dump, most people know that, right? Like if your car looks like the inside of a dumpster, most people know that. I did, however, start to realize that usually the people that say their car is a dump, it's actually fairly clean. And it's the people that say their car is quote unquote fairly clean that their car is a total dump, right? So after realizing that, I've kind of gone into it with a different mindset of, if they say, oh, it's not too bad, it's get ready,
Gotcha.
So communication with the client. I guess I didn't really answer that one, but just communicating to them that their car's a piece of junk.
Yeah, well, you did answer it in that you get the pictures in most cases, so you know what you're walking into.
Yeah, and just if you don't want to do it, there's no reason to, call the customer out for their car being horrendous. You just quote it really high, and that's how you get over that one. Hey, my price for that detail is $500, and let them make the decision of, I don't want to spend $500 on this piece of crap.
Yeah. So what non-vehicular podcasts do you listen to?
This podcast that I actually enjoy a lot, it's called Wrongfully Convicted. And I'm not, like, I don't take any political stance really on the podcast. I support police officers. I have police officers in my family. But there's this podcast called Wrongful Conviction. Sorry, Wrongful Conviction. And it talks about legitimate cases and people, and most times has those people on the show that were wrongly convicted of a crime and usually served a lot of time in prison. So that's kind of a good one. there's one by NPR called How I Built This, and it interviews people who started businesses, and it's usually, like the latest one was a company, Stripe, which is an online credit card processing program for online businesses. Listen to Short Story Long, which is drama from the Robin Big days from Rob Dyrdek, whatever, or Ridiculousness, and I think he's had a couple other shows. But drama from that show. So Rob's cousin, he started a podcast called Short Story Long. That's really good. I've been trying to be a little bit more well-rounded with what's going on in the whole world. But I really don't. I get really irritated with, I don't want to just listen to a CNN podcast or a Fox News podcast on either. I think I fall somewhere in the middle. And I have political thoughts and feelings and opinions, but I just don't think I'm necessarily going to convince anyone against their own, so I don't feel the need to share those sometimes. But there's a good news podcast called The Newsworthy, and it's Monday through Friday, and it's always under 10 minutes. So it's usually around the 6 to 7 minute mark. And it gives you just kind of a what's happening in the world every day in under 10 minutes, which is cool. And it's just, this is what's going on. Trump met with this guy. North Korea did this. North Korea and South Korea met. And for me, it just kind of keeps me abreast of what's going on, just so someone asks me a question and I'm like, wait, what happened? North Korea met with South Korea? Like, what? Or like North Korean hostages got freed overnight? Like, what? What's that all about? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So it just kind of keeps me in the loop, I guess.
That way, when you're standing at the mobile water cooler, you can talk about it a little bit more.
Or at least even if I don't chime in, I can at least understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I listen to this really good one. It's kind of annoying sometimes. It's called The Playbook by this guy, Dave Meltzer. And it's like entrepreneurs' playbook to how they did what they did. And of course, the Gary V audio experience. I think that's it for podcasts. Yeah, randomly I'll try to find new ones and stuff, but those are kind of my staples.
Gotcha. 2 random questions and a couple philosophical ones. We're coming in the home stretch here.
All right.
First off, have you ever gone back to that restaurant and gone to that lady supervisor and been like, hey, thanks for starting off my career?
What's interesting is I used to see her regularly, but I was immature when I left that job, and I didn't leave on great terms, and so every time I saw her, it was kind of awkward, So I never did. And then now, the person who owned the restaurant, they ended up passing away, and the kids took it over, and they essentially fired or got rid of all of the management that had been there forever, which that lady was a part of. And so I have no idea where she is or what she did. But the funny part is for a long time, I used to see that car because I lived like around the corner from where, she used to park her car. So for a long, long time, I saw her car, 5 days a week. And I used to always think, wow, that was my first car. I can't believe it,
Helped to motivate you, probably.
Yeah. And I always remember thinking, like, I got those rims looking so much better, and she never had that car looking as good as I did.
How many hours of sleep do you get each night on average? Multiple streams going on.
What's that?
You have multiple streams, multiple businesses going on.
Yeah.
I imagine it's tough to carve out time.
I'm usually ideally I'm in bed by 8 or 9, but usually it's by the time I'm, our nighttime routine with the kids starts around 7:30 ish. And so I'm in charge of, or I get to, put my son to bed, and he's usually asleep by 8 or 8:30. And then I mosey into my room. Sometimes I fall asleep with him, which is usually worst case scenario, because then I end up waking up at like midnight or 1 a.m. and then crawling into my own bed after getting like half decent sleep for a few hours. But usually I mosey out of his room by 8:30 or so, and then I wish I could go to bed right then, but then I feel like that's like my alone time, or my wife gets done putting my daughters down, so then we kind of recap the day then, or watch a Netflix show then, and I usually fall asleep by 10-ish, and then usually one of the kids are awake in the middle of the night, so usually around anywhere between 1 and 3 a.m. I'm getting woken up for something to put someone back down, or if it's not the kids, it's the dog. If it's not the dog, it's me, right? So I'm usually always getting woken up in the middle of the night for now, but that's just this season. And then the day starts around 6 or 7, so I call that, probably 6 to 8 hours of sometimes broken sleep.
So what would you do if you knew you would not fail and you can't include odor removal or a countertop business?
I think it's funny. I was talking to my wife about this. My biggest fear and my worst thought that I've always had in my whole life, and I don't know where it came from or where it started or why it affected me so bad. But my biggest motivator, and I'll answer that question after I say this, but is I don't want to get to the end of my life and be a grandpa sitting in a rocker telling stories and then have that thought, even for a split second, that I wish I would have done something. So I wish I would have tried that odor removal business. I wish I would have tried that Amazon business. I wish I would have tried that one podcast. I wonder if it would have gone anywhere if I would have started that podcast. So a big motivating factor for me is that I don't want to get to the end of my life and wish that I would have done something, right? And that's played a huge role in my life, and it's also why I don't mind putting out unedited podcasts or raw crap, and sometimes it sucks, and sometimes it doesn't work and it doesn't hit. It's because I don't want to know the what if. I need to find out, you know what I mean? So it's like, what if I don't start JimboDaily.com, or what if I don't start, and this is where it's become really cool, is it's like, I didn't think I was the one that should start a podcast. Until Pete told me, like, hey, dummy, you've been detailing for 5 years or 6 years or whatever it was. You have a lot to talk about. Like, until then, I didn't think I had anything to talk about. So I wasn't going to start a detailing podcast, and I think now, like, what if I wouldn't have started a podcast? I've met some of the most incredible people, and yourself included, Joe, honestly, and I'm not just saying that because you're on, but I've met some of the most incredible people in the world. I've had the most incredible meals. I had a meal with Con and Ian from Autofiber at SEMA last year at a Brazilian steakhouse. Now, I didn't know what a Brazilian steakhouse was. Joe, do you know what a Brazilian steakhouse is?
Are you talking about Fogo de Chão?
I don't know. I don't know if that's what it's called. I have no idea. But all I know is you have a coaster on your table, and when you're hungry, you flip it to green, and when you're full, you hit it black or red. Sorry. And I've never had a meal like that. And I sat there thinking, if I wouldn't have started this, not a stupid podcast, but if I wouldn't have started this podcast, I would never be here. If I wouldn't have started this podcast, me and you, Joe, would never be having this conversation. And it's like, wow, and some of those early podcasts were recorded at the Carl's Jr. corporate offices back in the parking lot, just with my phone. And it's like, I can't live with that what if, and so the flip side of it is sometimes I put out embarrassing stuff, and sometimes, it doesn't hit and it makes me look bad, but I just cannot at the end of my life say what if, and I really feel for people that have that don't have the opportunity to change it either, and so I try to encourage, my dad and my family and anyone else, like, just do it, just try it, If it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. I don't do my odor removal business anymore for houses because I just ran up against issues that it just wasn't working, but I tried it.
So you kind of addressed my next question, and it's a similar question, but it's worded differently. What would you do even if you knew it would fail?
I think
what do you feel so strongly about that you would still do even if you knew it was going to be
I think I'm doing it. Like I don't know if I have some really big dreams and aspirations for the podcast and for Jimbo Daily and for where I want to see myself, but I think I think I'm doing it. And if nothing ever comes out of this podcast monetarily or financially or anything like that, which it has and it does, but not to the level that I have hoped, not yet at least, which I do have hopes and dreams that it'll get there. But I honestly think that I'm doing exactly what I would do, whether I got paid for it or didn't. Whether I knew it was going to fail or I knew it was going to succeed. I mean, I've started to kind of reflect on it, and I'm like, dang, I'm living a pretty good life, considering, I didn't come from a super rough upbringing, but, my parents got divorced at a really pivotal age. I started working, at 16 right away, had all my own bills, car insurance, car payment, gas, all that, dumped on me at 16. And the life that I've been able to carve out on a very untraditional path for the time that I kind of grew up in it. And I'm not old. I'm about to turn 30, but, well, I guess I'm getting old. But, going against the grain and not going to college at the time that I graduated high school in 2006 was very, off the beaten path. So all things considered now, not going to college, not going that typical career path of high school, college, career, corporate ladder, blah, 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 blah. I'm really happy with where I'm at currently, so I think I'd be doing exactly what I'm doing. I love it. I love talking, obviously. We've gone almost an hour and I haven't skipped a beat, and it helps that your questions are phenomenal. But I love talking. I love meeting with people, and I love cleaning cars. And it's like I get to do all of that all the time. And I love hanging out with my family, and I can do that at any time, on any day. It's kind of crazy, but I really enjoy it.
Well, I have two questions left. The first one I stole from a guy I heard on the interweb, and here it comes. What excites you about the future of the detailing world?
That's a great question if I don't say so myself. The future of the detailing world, I think, is, the products that are coming out are extremely good. That's cool. But what excites me is I think that the people who are very ego-driven and egotistical are going to be found out much quicker, right? And so at least what I'm seeing in my circle, which includes the detailer inner circle, is, detailers are awesome people. And we have such a great industry filled with hardworking, caring people that they really care. They'd really do something to help you out. And I think we see the worst of that through some forums and stuff where tensions can get really high and egos can get really high. But honestly, what I'm excited about is the camaraderie that is there in the detailing industry. And I think it's going to come to the forefront even more. And people are going to be able to want to come into this detailing industry because the people are so awesome. And so that's what excites me is I just get blown away every time an event comes around, or SEMA or Mobile Tech Expo, or even conversations like this, and just the people are awesome. Like, and it's such a shame that sometimes we see the worst side of people through these Facebook groups, but like, honestly, the people are awesome in this industry. They're great. Look at you, Joe, taking the time out of your Saturday. We're at 7:00 on a Saturday night where you're at, taking the time to ask me some questions that you want to know the answers to. And it's like, that's crazy to me. You were eating ice cream?
Yeah.
Can you go finish it and I'll be right there? Can you save me some? Okay.
Smoothie, but it's
Oh,
cold.
Okay, I'll be right there, okay?
The smoothie is cold now.
You made a smoothie?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right there, okay?
But I don't know.
Okay. You want to work with me? All right, you got one more question, Joe?
Hey, I have two sons. I've been there.
Yeah, there you go. Here, listen to this.
What didn't I ask that you wish I would have?
You know, I honestly think we covered the gamut. I mean, that was, I really enjoyed that. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
I really enjoyed that. It's nice to be on this side of the mic. Hold on, but don't touch it. So I think you asked some questions that I didn't even think of that I really liked. Okay, don't hit the computer. So I think you nailed it.
I'm just getting a kick out of hearing your kid.
As I wrestle him from touching the computer and all that.
What's that?
All right. Well, hey, look, I appreciate your time. Why don't you go eat that, drink that smoothie?
I will. All right, Joe. I really do appreciate it.
Take care, bud.
All right.
See ya.
Talk to you later. Bye. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of the Auto Detailing Podcast, episode 335. I invite you over to check out JimboDaily.com. That's where I have a bunch of microfiber towels, a bunch of detailing accessories, grit guards. We have wheel woolies. We have wash mitts. We have hats, and I'm actually in the process right now of getting a couple t-shirt designs. In Jimbo Daily, we have a pump sprayer, a foaming pump sprayer over there at JimboDaily.com, and that's kind of becoming my home for all things product-wise. And of course, I have the Detailer Inner Circle. I get asked quite a lot. In fact, a few messages came through the weekend before this episode went live of how do I get more customers in my detailing business? I'm out there, but I can't get it. And all that is explained, the exact formula, the exact process, how to deal with them, websites, a whole group of other detailers that we collab together that's different from a Facebook group because, well, we're all honest and real, and real life case story studies and all that, trainings, AdWords, Google AdWords, Facebook, all that is wrapped up in a nice little bow that we call the Detailer Inner Circle. You can find out more at thedetailerinnercircle.com. But if you run a detailing business and you're looking to get more customers, take it to the next level, I guarantee you there's nothing else like it in the detailing industry right now for detailers. And honestly, it's so robust and getting robust every month that we're trying to make it where no one can top it. So anyway, DetailerinnerCircle.com. I'm in there on the Voxer group, which is a live chat group. You have complete access to me through there as well. And if you have any questions about it at all, I also do one-on-one calls about it. So if you're thinking about joining and on the fence, we could definitely jump on a call. So hope to see you over there and catch you on the next episode. Thanks, guys.